poor people used a midwife. That was all there was. And then the hospital, built in the city nearby. The wealthy people went to the hospital, and it was a sign of class. If you could afford a hospital birth and not use the midwife, you'd had evolved, you'd reached a certain caste, like you just got to a place in life where you didn't need to rely on what the poor people relied on. Ranked last in the world with Somalia, with our lack of maternity care, postpartum coverage, no disability.
In the US, just like you said, 6 weeks, right?
6 weeks in California.
How is woman supposed to go back to work after 4 or 6 weeks? Physically impossible?
Tell me. I want to know. It's a crime against mothers. It's a crime against women. I really believe it's part of why our divorce rates are so high in this country.
On your Instagram, it says you're a fierce feminist.
Yeah.
What does it mean? Aleksandra Evanguelidi is a licensed midwife and a certified professional midwife with over 2 decades of experience guiding women through the profound journey of pregnancy, birth, and postpartum. Aleksandra attended hundreds of births, supported women through everything from fertility and trauma release to conscious conception and embodied motherhood. Her approach blends the ancient and the modern, honoring physiological birth while weaving in spiritual and energetic insight. Miss Evangelidi states the health of the baby begins long before conception. Over the years, Alex has worked with over 3,000 clients, opened and operated as clinical director at the Sanctuary Birth and Family Wellness Center, trained over 25 student midwives, and has contributed several documentaries and publications on birth-related topics. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
So more than 25 years now of experience, 3,000 clients, right?
Yeah.
But not all of them were giving birth. Not all 3,000 were in labor, right?
Correct. I haven't
If you can a little bit closer to the mic.
Okay. I have not attended 3,000 births, probably closer to 1,400. But they were clients under my care.
Okay. What's the transfer rate to hospital?
Now, I would say in the home birth practice that I'm at, between 8 and 10%.
8 and 10. So from 8 to 10 out of 100 end up in hospital. What are the reasons?
The typical reason people go to the hospital is not an emergency. It's simply that whatever is happening in the labor process, we have stalled. Mom might be just getting very fatigued. It's not a severe complication. There's no rushing to the hospital. I'm not saying that that has not happened. But for the most part, most of the time where we're going has to do with moms just getting exhausted and labor really plateauing. Like it just doesn't get, like we're not going somewhere. It becomes monotonous and maybe the baby's in a funky position where instead of like the real tip of the crown of the head presenting, maybe it's like a little off center. This year has been interesting. I've had more complications in the postpartum where placentas just were not coming out, or there was a few situations like that. Like I had a really big resuscitation recently, and we went in just to make sure baby was okay.
Okay, and how does the hospital help? Let's say a woman is in labor for, let's say, 20 hours, and you're not going anywhere?
20 hours is not really a long labor. So
you start counting when the waters break?
No, labor will typically, and every labor can be very different, but labor generally starts wherever it starts in the labyrinth, right? Like if you're about to take the first step, that could be your water breaking, or it could just be like, just an overall sense of malaise, or maybe even loose bowels, or water could be breaking. Maybe it's broken. There's a little meconium. Backache. Like labor starts at point A, and that can be very different for many different people. But typically labor will progress from there. It just gets a little bit longer contractions, or the contractions are closer together. And baby starts to descend more, and we see some bloody show. And I had a birth this weekend. It took from 0 centimeters to complete and pushing was 5 hours for a first time mom, which is amazing.
Amazing.
Sometimes it takes 3 days.
3 days?
Sometimes it can. And there's so many different factors.
Will hospital wait for 3 days? Let's say a woman approaches to the hospital and says, I'm in labor. What they're going to do?
Not likely. They're going to want to move things along. There is a bed. The bed's for sale, right? And they do want to I think there's an overall perspective in the hospital that we should be progressing at a centimeter in an hour. But in natural, normal physiological labor isn't really like that. Like sometimes we hang out at 6 centimeters for 6 hours and then something shifts and then we progress. Or sometimes women will be laboring for a few hours or even a day and then like their body goes to sleep and they get a rest for 3 or 4 hours and they can eat and they can drink. And then labor will pick back up again, you know? Variables could be that there are older children at home and it's a distraction. Birth is a mammalian function, right?
Mhm.
Every mammal gives live birth, but you don't see mammals going to the freeway to give birth. Generally speaking, they move away from the pack and they are in a safe place. And if safety shifts, we often see this for people who are choosing to give birth in the hospital. They get very excited when labor begins, and it's like, okay, let's go to the hospital. And then they drive there and they deal with traffic and they, have drivers around them that are like, they don't recognize what's happening in the vehicle and the anxiety and the cortisol builds. And by the time they get to the hospital, they're not really laboring anymore.
So the hospital sends a woman back home?
Generally, or hey, let's
Stimulates.
induce you, right? Like we can't really keep you here not in labor. And often people don't want to leave once they arrive at the hospital because, that feels like a failure of sorts, right? Or they're being turned away because they're, you know,
Too early.
too early.
Okay. So you say that the health of the body of the baby begins long before conception. So what's the number one, number two, number three things to do before the conception? A woman with a man, husband and wife decide that they want to have children. What should they do, let's say, a year prior to conceiving or 6 months?
Love this. Okay, I'm really glad you're asking because people don't think about this enough, right?
Right.
They think, okay, I'll get off contraception and birth control. Like maybe I'll stop drinking, stop
Maybe.
partying, right?
Mom or dad?
Oh wait, you think it's just only one?
No, if mom says maybe I'm gonna stop drinking, so please do stop drinking.
Um,
If a dad says, I would say that's not that crucial as mom drinking.
why? Why do you think that? Why do you say that?
Okay, so 50-50, right? Genes. 50% from male, 50% from female, but a woman is going to bear the child for 9 months.
Mm-hmm.
So her body has to be, I don't want to say, don't want to use this word temple, but the
I love
body
temple.
for
Why
9 months, the body has to be as healthy as possible. If you want to bear a healthy child, right?
Well, it's really two to tango, 100% of this, right? Because, the way that we've seen sperm decline in the since 1970, so let's say the last 50 years, sperm counts have dropped 50%.
Mhm.
And they're dropping 3% a year. That's
So
not,
testosterone drops 1% a year since 1985, I want to say. So 30 years, 1% every year, so it's 30% down.
but if sperm is dropping,
Yes, the sperm is
it's
dropping.
actually like 3.5% a year. And it's not just the count, it's also the motility, the morphology, right? The shape. So these are significant um, components of a healthy pregnancy, but we shouldn't just look at like, oh, the woman's body, she's fertile, or the man is fertile, he's got sperm. There's so many other things that really impact the quality of health of the child, right? So number one, and I wouldn't even say stop drinking and stop smoking. Like that's like important. That's not even like, that's just like,
It's not on the table.
yeah, it's like, I look at this whole process as how are we moving the needle towards vitality, right? Like I'm sure you've interviewed people on this podcast about longevity. And, like this is something that kind of around 30 or 40 or 50 or 60 years old, we wake up and we're like, I don't feel good in my body. Like I don't want to go out like my parents. Like my dad's, on oxygen and he could barely wipe his own butt and he's in his 80s. I'm like, no. Right? Like, what are the behaviors that lead us down a life of pathology? Smoking and drinking are at the top of the list. So those really have to be taken out. But when we're talking about the health of a child, I'm not just talking about cellular health. I'm talking about mental health, immune health. We're living in a toxic environment right now. It's not going to change.
Correct.
Like, we're only going to continue to produce more products that pollute the environment. Unless there's something cataclysmic that occurs, it's business as usual.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And I love all these organizations that are environmentally waving their flags and preaching their work. I think that's beautiful heart-centered work, and I stand by that. But when you look at what's going on in the environment and in the water and in the soil and in the pesticides and in the GMOs and in the vaccines and all the things and the endocrine disruptors, the perfume industry, the cosmetic industry, Glade air
Clothes.
fresheners, clothes, like all these industries are continuing to boom. People are continuing to buy the products.
Mhm.
And all of those things have an impact on fertility. Computers on our laps, right? Cell phones in our pocket. I have a client right now I'm working with, actually her husband, and she's like, his sperm is down. And as we're talking, and I'm like, how often is he in the sauna? She's like, every day, super high temperatures. I'm like, give me a month of no sauna. I guarantee those sperm are going to go up and count. And it's like, we think we're doing something healthy for ourselves, but when it comes to fertility, we're definitely not moving the needle in that capacity. But for me, probably one of the most important things is gut health. I'm not interested in more children on this planet, although we are moving into a population decline. We are no longer reproducing at the point of replacement.
Correct.
And that is going to create larger economic issues as we continue down this path. I'm not interested in more children. I'm interested in healthier children. I'm interested in children that are not autistic. I'm interested, and it's not like shaming somebody for having an autistic child, but there's so much we can do. If we in California have something like 1 in 19 children are autistic
I
spectrum,
want to say boys 1 in 13 or 1 in 12 even.
but that's
That's insane.
insane. Like, if those numbers keep increasing, which they could, that the statistics are showing that they are,
Since 1980s.
who is taking care of them?
Mhm.
What is the economic responsibility? Like, what happens when the parents die?
That's a good question.
If these are high needs autistic children, these kids are going to be institutionalized as adults. Where does the economic responsibility fall? And those institutions are like what mental institutions used to be. It's deplorable care. It's like it's an incredible burden on society. So I'm interested in healthier children. And what can we do? We can heal our gut issues. And that is paramount. I'm a GAPS practitioner. It's one of the things I do with my preconception clients. I can't tell you how many people I have, even in my care, as people who get pregnant, who have horrible gut issues. Seeing gastroenterologists, they can't find anything. They're doing stool samples, maybe some candida. The issue is so pervasive. But if we can address the gut health, you're creating a microbiome that is everything. It's literally everything. And when we have a child that is born through the microbiome of the mother, they're inhale, sucking, and swallowing a plentiful, bountiful microbiome. Their immune system, their risk of autism goes down, their risk of childhood diseases, asthma, ADHD, it all goes down. And then you look at the long game, you see far less depression, far less anxiety, far less dependence on antibiotic use for immune issues.
Mhm.
I mean, it's like, this is a simple thing that we can do. It's not it's not about taking supplements, it's about healing the gut. And we can do it in a
By
short.
what? By cleansing?
No.
By what?
See, that's the
Eating
thing.
right?
It's not even just cleansing and eating right. Are you familiar with GAPS?
No.
Okay. Natasha Campbell McBride was a off the Eastern Bloc doctor. She had a child who was autistic, and she was like, I'm going to figure this out. And she did. And she basically took the FODMAP diet, which was an anti-inflammatory diet,
Mhm.
and she brought in ancestral practices where the very specific foods that our ancestors ate, which wasn't vegetables, okay? Like a lot of these um, ancestor, these like were in remote areas. Are you familiar with Weston Price?
Yeah.
Okay, so he was a dentist in the
Yes,
20s,
correct.
right?
Yes, yeah, yeah.
And he looked at his populations that lived on a
Yes.
farm and those that lived in the city.
Teeth
Teeth,
destroyed.
the teeth.
Mm-hmm.
But
Sugars, flour,
it's processed foods,
processed.
industrialized foods. So the people who lived in the cities, they had money, they could eat their lumps of sugar and their tea and their white bread.
Mm-hmm.
But the people who lived on the farms were eating what they could grow. They had butter, they had cream. None of that was pasteurized. They ate the animals that they farmed, they ate their organs, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they were eating a high nutrient dense diet. None of the processed foods, great teeth,
Mm-hmm.
no cavities. Where the people in the cities, their palates were getting crowded, lots of cavities. And he traveled the world with his wife for 10 years to all these remote places. And the cultures and populations with the widest palate also happen to have the widest pelvis. And so Natasha Campbell McBride took these ancestral practices in these nutrient dense foods in these remote populations where they weren't growing spinach and kale and they were, maybe had potatoes
Potatoes.
and wheat so they can make sourdough, right? They were eating ferments and high fat. Great teeth, great fertility, right? But we don't want to give up our latte, like our frappuccino, like we want to eat these desirable foods because they're sugary and they taste good, but they are jacking us and they're jacking our mental health and they're jacking our gut health. So when I work with people, we get the gut right. We look at the mouth. How many like cavities do you have? Do you have metal fillings? We look at family history of mental health issues. When you start to do family histories, you start to see that there's a genetic predisposition. But what you're really not looking at is how were you born? Were you breastfed? Did you receive antibiotics as a child? Or did you receive antibiotics in labor? Right? All of these things are huge, huge influences on what we receive from the maternal microbiome. The children who are born by C-section, who never get access to the implantation and the seeding of the maternal microbiome, who then end up in the NICU on antibiotics and then aren't breastfed or formula fed. These children are being introduced to life on earth with the greatest deficits.
Mm-hmm.
These are the children that we see prevalence of asthma, prevalence of diabetes, and, potentially a host of other issues like childhood cancer and, things that just can be interrupted. And, maybe you have to be born by C-section, maybe fetal distress. I mean, I had a mom who had growth restriction recently. The placenta just was not feeding the baby. Baby went to the NICU.
Yeah, but it's what, 1 to 2% of all the women, of all the kids
Having
this urge to have a C-section and not having this vaginal birth.
I don't know about the urge. Do you mean like how many women are having C-sections?
No, how many of them do they really need the C-section?
That's a really good question. I think the International Health Organization is saying you shouldn't have more than 15% C-section. Recently, I have an OB that I work with out of St. Joseph's, and he was saying he's the chief over there, and he was saying that because of the statistics, finally they're getting pressed, but they're also getting pressure not to give C-sections just simply because the client wants it. Like there's finally it's no longer able to be a routine just because doctor's going on vacation.
And women choose C-section because of what? Because of the convenience?
I think there's a lot of factors. One is trauma, right? Like they don't want, like they've had a previous life experience and maybe they've been sexually traumatized in some way. Like just the idea of going through labor because it really stimulates that area of the body.
Mm-hmm.
Labor is an incredibly vulnerable position for a woman to be in. She needs to feel safe.
Mhm.
And for some women, taking the control and saying, the C-section is what's right for me, that would be one reason. A baby who's breech, right? Like there's just so few doctors who being trained in how to deliver breech babies
Mhm.
that there just aren't enough skilled practitioners around to do a vaginal breech birth. Twins, right? That's another one. These are most commonly surgical deliveries. You will find an older doctor to do twins, but not as frequently as we would have 40 or 50 years ago.
Let's say 100 years ago, how did the birth of a child look like?
Well, about 100 years ago, the American Medical Association was like shiny and new, right? So they were very, doctors. And over the next like 30 years, it was really like this smear campaign that midwives were dirty and really greatly impacted the South access to actual birth care, because a lot of the midwives were originally slaves that were brought over from Africa,
Mhm.
and they had always been midwives and they were always taking care of their community. And then after this, like, smear campaign that showed, these granny midwives with like alcohol and like they're dirty, and people started leaning towards this medical system that looked very clean and packaged. And you see all these babies with like in their rolly carts separate from the mothers in the nursery, and it was like this sales pitch that
So you wanted to, excuse me, but you want to tell me that 100 years ago, most of the women gave birth at home?
there was a transition at that point, like that in around 1920s. Really, things
Mhm.
started like shifting the attention towards the American Medical Association and ACOG, like this presentation of birth being cleaner and safer in the hospital, which in fact it wasn't. I had a conversation with one of my clients yesterday, and her grandmother's like, "Why did you choose to have a home birth?" And she said, all these reasons, X, Y, Z. And she's like, when in the 50s, when I was pregnant, I would just smoke cigarettes with my doctor
Mhm.
during my appointments. Like that was like normal. um, Early medicine, they weren't even like washing their hands. They weren't gloving. Women were really, it was like veterinary medicine. Like all these experiments were done on women. A lot of women of color were receiving medical
Like
experiments.
what?
Oh man, like a lot of different surgeries without any kind of pain relief. It's barbaric what women have been exposed to.
But wasn't the child mortality high back then, let's say 100 years ago, because of the way that women had their labors like that at home, not sterile, bacteria, viruses, anything?
Um, what was the what?
Child mortality was up back then?
Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure there was. Look, me. We've had conversations before. I'm not anti-hospital in any way.
I'm not either.
I think that there is a time and a place, and
100%.
for sure, the birth rate has increased because of the safety and the integration of medical procedures, cleanliness, monitoring of babies in labor, better diagnostic criteria for women who are developing things like preeclampsia and other related issues, also like heart disease in women, like diabetes and women. Like nowadays, women who are not of premier health or of super vital can still have a healthy baby. Um, Midwives have always been in communities sometimes the only access to any medical care. And I think that there's an overall distinction with how midwives give care over um, OB care. And typically with midwifery, it's a very peer to peer relationship. Like we don't look at our clients as patients, we don't see them as sick. And
Mhm.
typically, especially in this country, we deal with low risk population. So our job is to take somebody who's healthy and keep them healthy, and give them good practices and protocols to stay low risk. The hospital model in this country, they don't receive a lot of nutrition information. They're not like talking to their OB about their stress levels, right? Like that's just not available in a 7-minute obstetric appointment.
Yeah, but can you make a client, let's say, eat healthier?
Can I make? No, I
No,
can't.
a
I can't make
doctor.
anything.
But can a doctor, for instance, let's say 200 pounds, 300 pounds woman approaches the doctor and says, I'm pregnant, this, and that. Doctor understands that this is her BMI index is just super high.
Yeah,
Will he or she ever recommend eating less and eating
sure.
right?
Well,
Really?
I do want to say something. Most OBs do not receive 1 hour of one day of any class in 8 years of medical school training
On nutrition?
on nutrition. None. So going to the OB for nutrition recommendations is not typically like what I would recommend. And look, like there's so many other better access points for that information, right? A dietitian, a nutritionist, right? So hopefully you're not going to your obstetrician for nutrition information. And and I think there's often a lot of body shaming, like, oh, you're too fat, you're too big, you're too heavy.
This is not body shaming. This is facts. You weigh 300 pounds. That's too much for a woman. Even 200 pounds, that's too much. Would you agree?
Um,
Maybe she's like 6'5", 6'2", 200 pounds, maybe and she's an athlete.
I for me, I'm looking at where's the power opportunity. When I have a client that comes in to see me, if she is obese or if she is a larger bodied woman, we're going to have conversations. But usually, all the reasons and ways that she got to that size are much more than just eating too much or not eating the right things. Usually, there are much bigger and deeper emotional components and coping strategies where food has been a part of that. So we're talking about disordered eating in general. My job is, hey, let's call attention to the ways in which we can help you have the healthiest pregnancy possible. I'm dealing with the emotional, the spiritual, the intellect, the physical. I cannot make somebody do that, but I can also tell you I've seen big-bodied women give birth like no problem.
Amen.
You
That's
know?
good.
So it's, I can make suggestions, but it's like I guarantee by the time they're coming to see me, they've already been told by many people previously in their life that there's an issue, that there's a health risk. I am not it's we have a concentrated time to spend with each other, but I can't control what she's putting in her mouth or why she's doing it. I can simply call attention to it and point to another option. I deal with a low risk population. I like to keep my moms low risk, but it's up to them ultimately.
So in 25 years of experience being a midwife, have you ever had a fatal result,
Sure.
stillborn?
Yeah.
How many? Let's say percentage-wise, 1%, less than 1% of all?
Look, if you've been in birth long enough, at some point there's going to be a fetal demise. It is simply nature. So, I can't give you a precise percent, but I have had babies with heartbeats born and never take a breath. And then I've had babies whose hearts just stop beating at some point during the pregnancy. It's like a tragic and incredibly painful experience. But as a midwife, our job is to be with the family through no matter what happens.
But if that woman that gave birth to a stillborn or a child died, let's say a few minutes after he was born, if that woman have been laboring in the hospital, would the hospital have saved that baby?
No.
There is almost nothing that the hospital can do that you can't.
This happens in the hospital. This happens in the hospital probably more often than it happens at home because they deal with a higher risk population.
What do you mean by saying high risk population?
Meaning that as a home birth midwife, I deal with a low risk population. And we determine risk by things like, are you diabetic, insulin dependent?
Mm-hmm.
Do you have heart disease? Do you have a pacemaker. I've had pacemaker home births, seizure disorders, hypertension. Like, these are the high risk factors that we look
Mhm.
at that screen people out of a home birth potential. I'm not looking at age. I'm not looking at weight. I am looking at people who are willing to take care of themselves, meaning you got to eat well. Like the population, especially here in Southern California. I mean, Dr. Stu, who I know you had on your podcast, he's like, we have the most cherry picked population here, right? We have people who generally have resources to eat well,
Okay.
right? We have hospitals all over the place here, right? Like if there's a real complication, we're going to be there quick. We're not in like backwoods Mount Shasta,
Mhm.
right? Like clients who come in to care with me are not on crack. They're not on meth, right? They're like people who can afford to spend a lot of money to have the best care, and they're going to get it. So if they're spending a ton of money to have a home birth, they most likely will also eat organic foods. Or if I say, look, your stress is high, I recommend you take a meditation course. I recommend you go to acupuncture. Usually they can find that within their budget. So, it is a very different population than remote areas where access is very limited.
Even here in California.
Yeah. I mean, Southern California. We're specifically in Southern California.
Mhm.
But, I have a colleague and a friend who's a midwife up in near Mount Shasta, Redding area. It's a completely different population. Her population, there's a lot of food stamps. There's a lot of people who are growing weed, right? There's a lot of abuse, a lot of neglect, a lot of women having baby after baby, not as educated a population. It's a very different kind of midwifery. She sees a lot of hemorrhages. She sees a lot of kids who look malnourished in the household. It's not our typical population down here.
Let's talk husbands.
Okay.
Are you a big proponent of husbands being present during the labor or no?
Heck yeah. Heck yeah.
Why?
And when I say, can we just say partners, right? Not to be woke, but like,
Okay.
um, I think that there's something so profound, like, do you plan on being at your
I
wife?
was during my our firstborn.
Would you plan on being there with this
Yes.
birth? Okay.
Yes.
So, first of all, it's an exquisite life event. How many kids are you going to have? Just one day.
Mhm.
Being present. And I don't just mean physically present, I mean present. Present, capital P, meaning not on your phone, like not sleeping on the couch while she's laboring, but really with her. I often think that the way that the partner shows up in labor creates a foundation in the relationship for the next phase of life together. Like she's going to remember how you showed up for her, right? Like you just being with her, you witnessing the process is so important because, I mean, it's going to be hard for you. I mean, women have to go through the process, right?
Mhm.
I think it's often harder for the partner because you're seeing the person that hopefully you love the most in the world doing the hardest thing they've ever done. And being her witness to that is so valuable for her, right? To feel seen, to be heard. That's all we really want anyway, you know? So, how the partner shows up in labor really fortifies the relationship after birth, right?
Let's say 100, 200 years ago, male weren't present, right?
Nope.
It's more like it was not not a man thing to be during the labor.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think they were wrong?
I think it was a cultural representation of the times, but also women were having 10 and 12 babies then. As soon as men started coming into the birth room, women were having one baby, two babies, right? So instead of doing this, like having sex and then like letting that be her thing to do,
Mhm.
men started to become both witness to the miracle of the experience, also to the strength that women have. It really changed everything.
The strength that women have, what do you mean? What strength? To bear a child?
Yeah.
Okay, but that was like for thousands of years.
But
Nothing had changed.
they didn't see it. They didn't see what the woman went through.
Oh, okay.
And once they did, it was like, wow, right? Like, look what she's enduring. to birth my child.
Do you think male think that way?
Mm, I think they do. I think some do. Again, it's very difficult. I haven't, like I said, tell my partners, I'm like, you're going to have a harder time than she is.
Correct. Because you have all those hormones and we don't.
It's that, but also it's like, you can't do anything to make this better.
Correct.
You can make it worse, but
Correct.
you cannot take away her pain.
Correct.
Right? And I think for partners, they want to see their beloved out of pain, right? If we're talking about male partners, it's like we want to fix things, right? You like to fix things around the house?
Yes.
Yeah. But you can't fix this, right? You can't fix your way out of her pain. The only thing that she can do to fix the pain is take drugs. Men feel much better when their partner takes drugs because it's like, you can relax, she can relax, right? But if a woman is unmedicated, you got to ride those waves with her if you're actually going to be present for her.
So everything that I remember from labor, I want to say it's just me being concerned for her not to die and for the child not to die. That's it. That was my main concern. She was laboring, I want to say, more than up to 20 hours. The water broke. We went to the hospital, and after, let's say, 19, 18 hours, she gave birth. So when that was the last 30 to 40 minutes, I was like, please just don't die. I was praying and holding her hand like, you have to stay alive and the baby has to stay alive. That's it. That were my main concerns. And I couldn't do anything at all.
No, but you could tell her you loved her. You could tell her she's beautiful. You can say, you're crushing this. Right? Like,
Does that matter in the process?
yes.
She's enduring that pain and I'm saying like, I love you.
Yeah.
Does that help?
Yeah. You want me to tell you why?
Why? Of course.
Okay. So one of the things I'll often have my clients do in labor is earlier labor. I'm like, how did you guys meet? And there's this origin story of what brought this family together. And then she might be laboring a little bit and, he might tell his story and she'll tell part of her story. And then they're laughing. And then she's like, no, you got this wrong. This is my version. Right. And all this time, what's happening is oxytocin is being stoked. Right. So how did you meet? When did you know this was the right person? Well,
that's during the labor.
Yeah. There's breaks.
Okay.
Right. Maybe not during active labor, definitely not by pushing. But, I'm reading the room. But over the span of a labor, it's what you felt in the hospital of don't die, don't die, don't die. That's very high cortisol. Right?
Very high. Correct.
A lot of adrenaline.
Correct.
But at home, the volume on those hormones is turned down because we're relaxed. And when I listen to the baby and I'm like, your baby sounds great. You relax. So the energy that you're bringing into the room of don't die, don't die, don't die, versus everything's great. When you relax, she relaxes.
Yeah, but when she describes the pain that she's feeling,
yeah,
I felt like she's dying. That's it.
What if,
she can bear more of the pain.
What if part of her is dying? Right? We don't look at the spirit of this experience, right? The evolution of what it means for the maiden or the little girl in all of us, that in order to endure labor, all of our rough edges are being spun in the tumbler, right? These edges of us, the child, the petulant version of us, the part of us that's throwing a fit. If you want to receive all of what's available in childbirth, natural childbirth, the labor experience itself is a doorway. And I mean door, capital D. I don't mean you're going into another room, although there are many rooms that you will go into in labor. I'm talking about the doorway to life before labor and before having a child, and the doorway after. And between those worlds is a liminal space of profound transformation. Yes, it hurts for the most part. Labor, I have seen births that have been painless, extraordinary. That's like picking the straw out of out of the haystack. I have seen it. I've witnessed ecstatic births. They are no less transformational. They are profound spiritual awakenings. Doorway, capital D. So for somebody who is really interested and curious and wants to claim the power for themselves, experiencing childbirth without pain medication will provide for you the most shedding of the ego, the most transformational. Like you can't drink enough ayahuasca. Like this is like the most profound experience. Those of us who are midwives, we are junkies for this moment. We get to see it. We get to see the shedding and the death. It is a death of that ego or that part of us that wants to be saved, wants help. But when we get through it and we realize that we did it ourselves, we're unfuckwithable. There's literally nothing that will stop us. And that is important biological adventure for us to go on. Why not? I think most of us are just afraid of that kind of power. It's been siphoned from us forever.
How many kids do you have?
When
So what are the pros and the cons of midwifery? There's definitely some cons. What are those?
you want to talk cons first?
So the pros, I want to say we talked about the pros with Dr. Stu for almost 3 hours. And that was
The pros of midwifery?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, first of all, I do want to say not all midwives are created equal, right? There's kind of a coin term, midwife, right? Who are like people who are more clinical and who are lean more in the medical system. They often work in hospitals. I have to say, like, we can't like necessarily lump us all in one category, but I am not a midwife. I'm more a midwife, a holistic midwife, and I really see myself as a like a priestess of this work. Like I'm here for the journey, no matter what it looks like, right? Like I will crawl through the muck with anybody. But the cons of midwifery would be inclusive of the things that separate us, right? Like, some midwives are very busy and they're not taking care of themselves, whereas an OB just shows up when you're pushing. Midwives are not. Like, we're with you for hours, often, sometimes days, right? So that can take a toll on our own health and on our family health and the family system that we are part of. So a lot of midwives, single, right? Not necessarily married, because the partnerships have to sustain always not being number one in someone's life, right? Like when the call comes, I go. And that could be my kid's birthday. It could be Christmas. Doesn't matter. I go when I'm called. And that is part of the agreement. But to that extent, sometimes our health really struggles because of that. Okay? Look, there's, I think, this theory that if you're at home, you may not have access to immediate medical attention. And for some, like, I can't deny that as a possibility, right? It really does also depend on how far away you are from a hospital and how well trained your midwife is to see when something is not normal, right? So as midwives, we manage like a realm of birth, right? I say low risk, but it's a category of women. Like things that are on this side of the risk category, things that are on this side are really not optimal for midwives. But some providers will take higher risk clients, like breech deliveries. That is innately a higher risk delivery. And so if you happen to have a breech baby and your midwife isn't well trained, that could be a problem for your baby, right? Yeah, in a hospital setting, you have fewer options, and I can't say one is better. I've seen breech deliveries in the hospital that were violent births. Yeah, the baby was born breech, vaginally. There were some benefits to that, but there were also some violence in that birth experience, violent events, the mom being traumatized, the baby being traumatized. Was it
physically or mentally?
both? Was it better to have that vaginal birth and say, yeah, we breached this baby vaginally, but, We're both fucked up from it.
Yeah, but you can fix the mentality.
Some of it.
But if you're physically damaged, that's it. You're done.
Yeah.
How? At what time do you know whether there is going to be a breech delivery or a normal one?
Some women we'll see an ultrasound, or we can feel with our hands. Like, midwives in general are very good diagnosticians with what we are
Yeah,
feeling.
but how many weeks prior to the D-Day? What you know for sure whether it's going to be a breech delivery or a normal?
Most of the time, by like 36 weeks, the babies have settled into the pelvis in whatever position they are going to be birthed in. So if your baby's breached at 36 weeks, it becomes harder to flip that baby. There's something called a version. Have you
No.
heard the term version?
Mm.
So it's a manual manipulation of the baby, and generally done in the hospital, to flip the baby into a head down position.
And it's possible.
Oh yeah, happens all the time. But that is also a violent experience. If you've ever seen one, it's like pretty,
It's painful for the woman.
yeah. And, it's like quick, and it's like they get in there, there's oil on the belly. I mean, it's a very aggressive procedure. I have a mom actually going in tomorrow for one because she's breached at 38
Oh,
weeks.
so they're going inside.
Mm-mm. They don't go inside. They go externally. And
Okay.
usually it's 2 people, 4 hands,
Okay.
a lot of oil,
Mm-hmm.
and like the force of their entire body weight to try and flip the baby.
That hard physically.
Yeah.
And what's percentage-wise? How many success rate?
Depends on the provider, usually somewhere between probably 25 and 50%
Success rate.
success rate.
Okay. Okay. So what are the cons of having a midwife at home in comparison to giving birth in a hospital?
It really depends on the midwife, Like, right now, I would say it's all about the training. So if you have an unskilled midwife who isn't maybe that well versed in fetal, um, like the fetal understanding of the heart rate variabilities, that could be a very big issue, like just missing a baby who's in fetal distress. Access. Some states, midwifery is illegal.
Really?
It's illegal or illegal, and they're still yet midwives practicing, but they don't have access to meds. So if there's a bleed, they can't use Pitocin legally to stop a hemorrhage. I think a big, like, at least for me, a big part of why I believe midwifery is safe is the ability to help a woman who's anemic and identify that using various lab results, and then also like protocols to help her build her blood. I tend to be more in the biohacking realm of things, the ancestral world. So I do almost everything with food over supplements,
Mm-hmm.
because I'm like, we're going to take a synthetic vitamin that's like this big that your body doesn't even know how to process and just be like, yeah, you're healthy now. Like, that is like the last thing I care about. That doesn't mean I don't use some supplements in my practice, um, but if we can get a woman and her family, really, it's not just about the woman. If we can get everybody eating well, you're setting a runway for a healthier family model after birth, right? So it's a lot of conversation. Midwives, we're spending an hour with each prenatal visit. We're talking about your stress. We're talking about exercise. I'm talking about sunlight. Like, I want you getting sunshine in your pregnancy. I want you exercising. I want you sleeping. I want you happy, and I want you out of pain. And if you were like, any of these markers are not looking good, we're like, okay, let's focus our attention on this thing. Let's get you out of pain. Let's get you sleeping better. Let's get you shitting properly. Like, let's build your vital stores so that your experience of childbirth and the postpartum are going to be so much better, right? But we're creating, sometimes it's all about food, and we're just talking about food and ways of troubleshooting what already are poor eating habits or already disordered eating, so that postpartum, when like life gets so much incrementally harder, right? Like, there's just less of us to cook, less of us to clean. What systems are in place so that we continue to thrive? I don't know if you know, but I have a school called the Nourished Mother School of Ancestral Traditions. And it's a postpartum doula training school. So my partner Meg and I train postpartum doulas to take care of new moms and families. And it's extraordinary. I don't know.
Doulas are the women or men that come to the hospital that help. They don't catch the baby, but they help dealing with doctors and postpartum as well, right?
That's a labor doula. So generally speaking, doulas do not have medical skills, right? Or medical licensure. Some do, but for the most part, they are just the servants of the birth process. They massage, they rub, they're fanning, they give dads a break or partners a break. Doulas are amazing. They're like literally the mensches of the birth process. Postpartum doulas are like, if you look at traditional cultures like Asian cultures or Indian cultures, or even in Mexico, all the aunties come and they tend to the new mom, right? And there's very specific practices within each culture that nourish and help the mom's body, physical body, heal postpartum. Here in the West, we're like post-war era babies. And the whole mentality is you put your big girl panties on and you muscle through it, right? You grind, you hustle, you figure it out. And
in 30 days you go back to work.
Yeah, if you even get that 6 weeks.
6 weeks.
Of like, and that's just like California, right? Like that doesn't mean like we're not guaranteed.
No women would have ever come up with this term.
No.
With this term, 6 weeks, impossible.
Like at 6 weeks, your kid's just starting to smile. At 6 weeks, you're feeling like your vagina's not going to fall out of you when you take when you sneeze. Like so that like we're not healed, but I'm talking about the immediate postpartum when a woman goes home, right? Let's say she's had her baby in the hospital, everything's fine. The doctor's like, I'll see you in 6 weeks.
What to do within those 6 weeks?
There's no breastfeeding support.
Right.
There's no check-ins like, how's your bleeding? And how are you feeling? And how's your relationship? And how are you pooping? Or like, there's zero, no help. No, there's no support systems within our Western culture that tend to the new mother vulnerable phase. Like it's ridiculous.
And hospitals do not provide doulas postpartum?
Now, remember, I don't know about other states, but right now with Medi-Cal, so if you are
Low income.
very low income, you can get something like 24 hours postpartum care with a doula who's getting paid not very well, but it's something.
Okay, yeah, sure.
And most people don't even know that these programs exist. And there's not enough postpartum doulas to fill the role. And it's not even a living wage for the postpartum doula, but it's a start. But in our school, we're teaching doulas on all the cultural, like all the Mexican practices, all the Ayurvedic foods and practices, all the Chinese medicine practices. And from a midwifery perspective, we're training these, what we call mother tenders or postpartum doulas, to come into the home and see where the holes are to help this woman really be nurtured, right? Like not every partner, not every husband or partner is nurturing. Like maybe they're not domestic. So
Maybe they're working.
Or maybe they don't get any postpartum, but like maybe they're not getting disability and can't take time off. Or it's because now they've gone from a double income to a single income and she's just got to figure it out. Sometimes we'll have family members come. That is often far less help than having no one, right? Because you are dealing with almost like a cultural cognitive dissonance of, I don't know why you're breastfeeding. We just use formula. Or like we're now having to care for the relative who's come and the baby.
Cook for them, make them comfortable.
It's traumatizing. It's re-triggering a trauma pattern, So we're working towards helping train these postpartum doulas so that women in the postpartum period are heard, they're listened to, and they're taken care of. And they're getting breastfeeding help. And the rates of postpartum depression are going down. The success rates with breastfeeding go up. And the family unit thrives because in a system where the woman has the baby and the partner, now all the loads of all the domestic needs of the house, the pets, the food, and the laundry now being dumped on the partner. It's an unrealistic expectation, and it's a model that just is not born. It's not going to thrive. It's not. And then you see the breakdown of the family system because the woman doesn't feel taken care of. And then she starts eating shit, right? Like, what do we do when we like can't eat a warm home cooked meal? We eat a bar. We eat junk. What's quick? We call out. We get like food delivery, maybe if there's funds for that. But that's not quality. And it's definitely not going to help us heal. And it's
So in my home country, we have a maternity leave for either 1 year or even 2 years. Here,
are you rubbing it in? Is this your
but in the US, just like you said, 6 weeks, right?
6 weeks in California?
In California.
It's
How
not.
does a woman how is woman supposed to go back to work after 4 or 6 weeks? It's
I
physically
wonder. Tell me.
impossible.
I want to know. Do you have
It's like it's a nonsense, literally a nonsense. It's impossible, physically, mentally, psychologically. It's impossible to get back to work in 4 weeks after you deliver a baby.
Yeah. And
And the baby goes where to
where?
a kindergarten?
A baby? No.
Where?
Daycare.
Daycare?
But here's the deal. A lot of people are not going back to work because the cost of a nanny is so high that what are you going to do? You're going to end up taking home $5 an hour just by going back to work.
So you work just to pay for the nanny? It's absurd.
It's absurd.
How can you leave a 4, 6, 8 weeks baby
You can't.
with someone else?
Yeah. I have a client recently whose friend was giving birth in the hospital. She went 2 weeks late, and the doctor's like, okay, come in at 4 weeks because you missed 2 weeks. You like, because she delivered late, they're not even giving her 6 weeks. They're only giving her 4 weeks postpartum before they'll see her and wrap up care. I mean, it's like you're just like coming out of the complete dysregulation of your whole sleep life cycle.
So who rings the bell? Feminists? Who rings this bell? It's like impossible. Why do you do that? You have to change the law.
I'm in agreement with you, but do you want to know something? Every time that it goes on the ballot for like laws where we are going to add maternity care disability for women, it's the first thing in both parties that gets next from the this is ridiculous. It's not a Democratic issue. It's not a Republican. We do not care about mothers in this country.
Why? Because of the big business lobby?
It's
in Congress and
not
Senate?
Financially incentivized. It would cost too much money.
To who? To the government?
To the government to put these systems in place.
This is number one economy in the world, right? The last time I checked.
We are ranked last in the world with Somalia, with our lack of maternity care postpartum coverage. No disability.
So you want to tell me that the government of the United States of America cannot afford a year, at least 12 months of maternity leave?
I don't know where they would pull it from, but they're definitely not going to pull it from.
Well, they print money every year. Print more money for that stuff.
Listen,
not for the wars.
If you can figure this out for me, I would really love to know. I swear, as soon as as I retire from midwifery, probably in 20 years, this will be something that I do, go into lobbying, because it's the biggest.
But there are women in Congress too, so they know what's up. They experience it.
It's the first thing cut from every law.
Interesting.
It's a crime. It's a crime against mothers. It's a crime against women, and it's. I really believe it's part of why our divorce rates are so high in this country.
Every other, right? 49%.
Yeah, I think that simply because mothers, it's too much. It's too much, and I think women just break down.
Yeah, but does a divorce solve the problem?
No, but here's what does happen. I mean, and this is obviously not every community, but women who tend to be the domestic caretakers of the household and the children, when they divorce, 50-50 custody, they get the first break of their lives. right? That means partners have to show up and be dads and have to take care of half the laundry and half the feeding. And then they get these days off and they're like, oh my God, this is so much easier than being responsible for everything all the time. I know. I've dated men who were like, as soon as we got a divorce, they're like, oh my God, I became a dad for the first time, like really a father, not just like the weekend dad, but like they were now responsible for driving the kids to school and attending the practices and, the sports. And like it shifted how they showed up in their children's lives. And I'm not saying this is right or I'm pro divorce or anything like that, but I think the expectations that are placed on women to take care of the children, the household, and have a job and still deal with that kind of like
That's true. Yes,
bullshit
correct.
and bosses.
Mhm.
And it's an unrealistic demand on us physically and then still be like sexy for our partners later. Like it's like, no, it's too much.
But this is what the modern feminism push.
I know.
You're independent. You can do it. You don't need any man. You can achieve great success climbing the career ladder.
Yeah.
So how are you supposed to
Look,
bear a child, give birth to a child, raise a child, climb the career ladder, pay for the bills?
yeah.
You had one household and you pay, let's say 50-50, let's say this apartment, 3,500, right? But
Mhm.
now you, ex-husband lives on his own. So let's say 2,500 his apartment, hers apartment 2,500. Bills are not split. So a woman has to work now,
Mhm.
for sure. There is no way his alimonies are going to pay for her bills.
No.
And he has to work. And the kids are split between two households.
Mhm.
So how to solve it?
How do you solve it? I don't have the answer for that one. I really don't. I do think that there's a bigger movement right now where it's going a little bit backwards. Like you see, like TikTok has the whole trad wife thing. Are you familiar with that trend? It's like women are like, yeah, I kind of just want to bake and cook and have a homestead and raise chickens, and, like homeschool. Like,
But it's not only about that. Let's say you don't homeschool. When the kids are at school, let's say, right? Kindergarten and school, you cook for, let's say, 2 hours max a day. But then you have some free time. You can have friends, female friends that do the same stuff. You can meet up, you can have coffee, you can have some conversations.
mm-hmm.
But women are being told that no, you have to cook for 5 hours a day, then clean for 4 hours a day. Then the dad come back home, and you have to please him, plus a few kids. On your Instagram, it says you're a fierce feminist.
Yeah.
What does it mean?
I think for me personally, what that means
Yes.
is I'm really here supporting female voice, right? So I believe that I'm an advocate. I'm here to help women find their power. That's the version of feminism that I'm interested in. So I know it means many things to different people, but I definitely feel that I'm here to help give women a voice and help them step into their power, see for themselves what they're capable of. Um, and the truth is, it's probably based on my own like imprints from my own family model that I was raised in with a more dominant father and a more passive mom. And then like also probably growing up feeling kind of insecure and like, I had to find my own power. And most of that has happened once getting into the birth world. I think it's seeing women give their power away and being overridden by the misogyny of male doctors and just, women consenting to things without really understanding what they were consenting to and then seeing the trauma that was left behind. Um, yeah.
But your dad being dominant in a good way or in a bad way? Because you can have dominance in a good way, right? Dad, for instance, is responsible for the finances, for the physical safety. Let's say he's responsible for for the families that have sons, for them to be, let's say, disciplined, physically active, physically strong, to teach them how to be real men when they grow up. Or if they have daughters, if they have girls, that teaches them to have their self-esteem, to know their worth amongst boys and then amongst male.
Yeah.
So this is, in my opinion, this is a, let's say, good dominance. But the bad dominance is what? Being abusive, physically and mentally.
Yeah.
So that was the bad one, the bad example.
I think there were I mean, I wouldn't paint him as all bad. There was like, I know my father loved me, but remember, he came from Russia. Like his father came from Russia, and they were very post World War II. They coming off the heels of that. So that's the world he was raised in. So more in that aggressive, authoritative environment, and that was all he knew as a parent because that's how he was parented. So that, I grew up in the 70s and 80s, and I had a very dominant, aggressive, abusive, fly off the handle father. So that kind of environment just didn't feel safe, and not having a mom who really had the courage to protect her children, that was an imprint. These are just things that were what I came into this planet with, right? Like everybody has their own kind of life shit that they have to work through and work out. This was mine. And I'm not sitting here a victim of that experience. It's like, that definitely sucked. But I do believe those initial life experiences fortified me to get out of there, right? Like I grew up in Massachusetts and I was like, peace out at 18 and I'm going to LA and this is better for me. I had to get myself out of the toxic environment and create my life, design my life away from negative influences like that. That doesn't mean it was like all like roses and rainbows after that. But it was like a fresh start, like creating, okay, what do I want? What kind of reality do I want to live in? And I've definitely raised my daughter as a single mom. I have her full time. She's 16 now. And I'm so much stronger. And she is stronger because she has a voice and she hasn't grown up in that environment. That because of the experience I've had and having to find it in myself, like, who am I in this world? What do I want to do with this one life? It's how I found midwifery. I was deep in prayer. I was graduating from college. I went to UCLA and I was like, I got to figure this out. Like, I want to make something very meaningful out of my life so that when I am 100 years old, looking back on my life, that I'm like, okay, I feel proud of the work that I did. That was a good use of this space that I took up and these resources that I used. And so I went deep into prayer, deep into inquiry with Spirit. And I was like, show me what I can do here that's going to bring value to myself and to others. And then somebody handed me a book called The Red Tent. Do you know this book? It's a historical fiction, biblical period book with this nomadic family. And in it, as this family moves around, there are births in it. And each time there was somebody giving birth, I was a sobbing mess. I was like, this is it, birth. So that as I'm working with women and individuals, that archetype of the controlling father that I lived with, which is still prevalent in the obstetric model now, I could support them having a voice and advocating for themselves so that they didn't just do what they had to do to be a good patient or a good girl.
Give me an example. So let's say we had a conversation a month ago, right? So I invited you and Dr. Stewart to have this conversation about maybe
lunch. Your
Yes.
beautiful wife cooked for us a delicious meal. Let's not forget that.
And my wife decided that she is going to give birth at the hospital.
Yeah.
So this is her having her voice, right?
Yeah.
let's say 100 years ago or 50 years ago, this toxic quote unquote masculinity would be me saying her where she's going to have a baby, right? Do you understand that correctly?
I would say toxic masculinity, what I'm
In
talking
regards to giving birth to a child.
so that situation could be today. It could be today. I have plenty of people that want to do a home birth, but their partners won't let them. And they're like, no, we're not having a home birth, right? Because they still,
Males say don't know.
oh yeah, all the time.
So more women want to give birth at home and more husbands or partners are saying nope.
Correct.
Okay. I always thought that this is the vice versa.
Yeah, no,
Okay.
no. Most, I don't want to say most, a lot of women are curious and they're enchanted by the model of care that we provide. They want to be listened to. They want to be heard. They want to feel important, right? An OB has 7 minutes that they're with you, right? Like there's no time for personal relationship. That's all that we do. As midwives, an hour for each prenatal visit, that is completely taken up by getting into my client's psyche. Like, what's going on with you? What's impacting you? What's the hardest thing in your life right now? Right? I'm part therapist, part nutritionist, part medical provider. All the things that we do, I'm like part life coach. Like, we're just helping fortify her mentally and emotionally and physically so that her birth experience is victorious.
Mhm.
Right? And that doesn't mean there's no complications. It means that she felt heard and seen and spoken to and respected every step of the way. So when I look at that dynamic of the OB who knows best, it can be a male or female doctor. They don't want their ego, their power usurped, i.e., my dad, the controller, right? Like he's the boss, he knows the right way. Who are these clients or patients to question the authority of a doctor?
Mm-hmm.
I'm interested in supporting women so that they find the authority within themselves, which is something I've had to do in my life. And it just so synced up with midwifery as a career choice, right? My own personal evolution and finding the authority within me, I now give to my clients, right? I started doing birth in my early 20s. I didn't shit. I really didn't. I had a desire to help women find their voice. This was long before I realized that babies were the most amazing things in the world. For me, it was all about supporting women to not be abused in the medical model, which happens every day in every hospital all over the world. This is not a new thing. Medical misogyny is real. It happens every day. I see it in the hospital. It has gotten better. It continues to get better and better. But part of the threat that you feel in the hospital is my wife really safe? I don't just mean in birth. I mean from the people who are trying to poke and prod the baby and her. People with an agenda, a systemic agenda that probably has a lot of value for some population, but for a low-risk population, it doesn't. That's why women want the home birth. They don't want to be futzed with. They don't want to be controlled. They don't want their water broken. They don't want vag exams without consent.
Mm-hmm.
Right? But it's like, for some people, the idea of home birth is still so extreme. It's like, oh, why would you do that? Earlier, we were talking about the historical midwifery obstetric world kind of expression in rural areas all over the world. And I've had clients from many different areas. Midwives did all the deliveries, right? Poor people used a midwife. That was all there was.
Correct.
And then the hospital built in the city nearby. The wealthy people went to the hospital, and it was a sign of class. If you could afford a hospital birth and not use the midwife, you'd had evolved, you'd reached a certain caste, like you just got to a place in life where you didn't need to rely on what the poor people relied on. And so when I have clients who are from some of these indigenous communities and they want to have a home birth and their family's like, oh my God, we're going backwards. But what we're really doing is there's this like having to understand this cognitive dissonance between what was the only option versus the shiny new hospital versus now what people who have resources, financial resources and access here in Los Angeles, you I would say there are 20 amazing midwives here. 20.
In the whole LA?
Yeah, I mean there's probably 30, 35 midwives,
That's
but like
not a lot.
20 is
Of course.
amazing.
Really?
But you think, do you know how many people are choosing a home birth? Less than 1%.
Less than 1%.
Yeah. And here we're in an environment where people go to Erewhon, they spend hundreds of dollars on Erewhon, yoga, Pilates, like all their like injectables, their saunas, their red light therapy, their like hyperbaric, but still the hospital has this like safer when it's really just
Yeah.
a perception of safety. It's not even real.
And the C-section rate is 30%. So every
30
third.
to 35, depending on the hospital.
So every third.
Woman.
Yeah. Maybe that's one of the reasons why they go to the hospital. If midwives are going to provide C-section at home, maybe.
Oh my gosh, but we wouldn't. That's the whole thing. You know? So I said the International Health Organization, it was the World Health Organization that
WHO.
said 15% worldwide C-section rate. But if here we're at 30% C-section rate, you can do the math.
Do you think male and female are equal?
Do you mean doctors?
No. Regular. Just woman and a man.
No,
Are they
absolutely
equal?
not. We're completely different. Different biology, different hormones, different thought processes. I do not see them as equal like that. We're not the same. But we are equal. Like I do. Okay. Are we going back to feminism now?
Yeah. You can call yourself feminism if you say that we're not equal. Equal rights, opportunities.
Yes.
But feminists often say we are equal. We're the same.
Look, I told you where feminism works for me, right? It's about the voice. It's about being heard. I mean, how long ago has it been since we were just allowed to vote? Come on.
70 years? 80 years? How many?
I don't know. But I think we can unpack feminism any way you want. I'm just telling you what my version is. It's about empowering women. And to me, that's the simplest way of saying it. Empowering women to have their own authority. And again, it comes from my own upbringing. It's really about empowering myself to have my own authority. And this thing that I figured out of having agency. We talked about agency when we came here for lunch, right? Like at some point in life, hopefully, you realize, oh, I'm making the decisions for my life. I'm not looking to an authority outside myself for the answer. That's the kind of feminism I'm interested in.
So in your opinion, who has the final voice whether to give birth at home or go to the hospital?
I do believe that there needs to be a compromise. Like, honestly, I don't think home birth is for everybody. And even if a woman is like, I want to do this, and the partner's very uncomfortable, what I have seen in those dynamics where the partner's uncomfortable and we're at home, it's horrible. It's not worth it, right? Because the partner's then high anxiety, high cortisol, can't be there for their partner, second guessing everything. It doesn't help the psychic space of birth. They're not contributing to this magical co-creative experience.
Yeah, but at the same time, this is a woman's body, and she is going to go through this. A man can leave, have a Starbucks, and can go back in, let's say, 2 hours, and the baby is being born. That's it. But a woman has to endure all that stuff. So it's her final decision.
I love your approach, but I'm a firm believer in like the space and the energy of birth. And, most people would prefer to have their partner there than have them be at Starbucks while they're delivering the baby without them.
Okay, so let's say a woman wants to give birth at home. A husband says no way. If they stay at home, she's not happy because he is not happy and he's anxious, anxiety, all that stuff. He's at home, he's nervous, doing all that stuff. He's definitely not helping. Let's do the same stuff, but they go to the hospital Now he is happy, but she's not. What's worse? For him to be not happy or for her to be not happy?
I would tell you this. I think that in a relationship, we make compromises, right? And it doesn't create safety in the birth experience if the partner's a wreck and not able to be present. Like that, for me as a provider, has never been a beneficial environment. You know, like as midwives, we're really like not just lifeguards at the pool, you know, making sure that everybody's safe, but we're also, you know, we see trends. And if there's a potential complication, let's say there's a hemorrhage in like it's just, it's a very traumatizing experience if the partner is not 100% on board with the birth experience.
Have you ever said to a husband, to a partner, get out of here?
No,
Never.
no,
In 25 years experience.
no. I haven't had to. But there have been other people at the birth that I'm like, we need space.
Like what? Moms
Yeah.
controlling too much?
Just
They know better?
interfering with the vibe, right? Like,
The vibe.
I mean it. It's like, it's a field of energy. And if somebody is like losing their shit and there's a baby coming and they need to get a handle on that because it is an interference pattern in the space. We're there protecting the environment as well. You know, like it's I had a mom, I used to have a birth center, right? And I had the couple had both of their moms come. One of which was a NICU nurse.
Oh.
And she shows up with her stethoscope and her scrubs and her Coke with rum in it. And she's so uncomfortable. Oh my God. Yeah. She's like sitting there. And at one point, my client's like, I'm done. I want to go to the hospital. And I go in there and I check her. And I'm like, you're 8 centimeters. Never heard another peep out of her. Her mom is like, why are we still here? Throws a fit. And it's like, okay, this is not helpful. She's almost there. She's ready to give birth. Like your anxiety, your stress isn't welcome in this space. It's an interference pattern. We're here trying to protect the container of this experience. Birth is intense, right? Like there's one doorway, capital D, right? Babies come in, people go out. Like it's this passageway between two realms of consciousness. We got to make sure that it is like hermetically tight in there where it's so sealed and there's like the negativity will impact the mother's consciousness while she is doing the hardest thing she's ever done in her life. Literally going into the reaches of the cosmos to bring her child here. It's a phenomenal life experience. There's nothing remotely close to it. One doorway. Soul's transitioning here and leaving. We got to protect that. We got to make that a safe place. Sometimes it is the hospital. That is a safe place. Because if the partner cannot relax and be present, it is not ideal to be at home. She could be low risk. She could birth like nothing, like no problem. But if the partner cannot control themselves in a setting, we have to be where it's the safe setting, or we do work on the trauma that's there so that the partner can be present in the birth experience, because that's what we need. We need somebody that is reliant, like we can lean into you to show up, to be her pillar of support, to be her reflector of confidence. Everybody in that setting has to believe in her.
Have you ever had a partner, a husband fainting?
Oh, yeah.
Give me percentage-wise. 1%?
Very low.
Very low?
Very low. But yeah, it's happened. Some people just can't see blood.
Just about the blood?
Sometimes it's about the blood. Sometimes it's just, you know, whatever it is, the intensity. This is not a mundane experience. Birth is not vanilla. Epidural birth, a little more vanilla. But in general, birth is...
How many husbands percentage-wise catch their babies?
At home?
Yes.
Often. Almost all. unless a mom wants to catch her own baby. But that's in my practice. That may not be other
A woman can
practice.
catch her own baby?
Hell yes.
In what position?
Any.
Okay.
Do you need demonstrations? Well, when your wife comes back, I'll show you.
Okay.
Like I had a mom, she was having her 4th or 5th kid. I can't remember. It was her first home birth. And she's like, I want to catch my baby. And we're like, absolutely. Right? It's like giving back the power to the mother. These were the things that were important for her to reclaim what had been robbed from her in her first experience or her second experience. This is why a lot of women turn to home birth, because they're so traumatized by a previous birth experience or the birth experience of a friend that they're like, oh, hell no.
Mhm.
They've already found the authority within themselves. They're not looking for permission. Right now in the birth world, there's a very big movement towards unassisted birth or wild birth or free birth. Have you heard these
No.
terms?
What does it mean?
It means nobody's there, right? Maybe the partner, maybe the kids, but they receive no medical care,
Okay.
or they might get an ultrasound, or they might do some blood work, but they are not getting midwifery or OB care, and they birth without a medical provider present. And I believe that's the pendulum's way of swinging, because options have become so limited that for these women, this is the only way, or this is the most appealing way that they can find that authority within themselves, where they're not even seeing midwifery as an option. And so the influence of this movement has also influenced my clients who are seeking midwifery care. They want a hands-off birth. They want hands-off midwifery care. Like maybe they'll see me a few times, but ultimately, like they don't want that. They're like trying and leaning into trusting themselves as the authority. We're talking generations of that being taken.
Absent. Mhm.
Yeah. So this movement is very interesting. I have mixed feelings about it. I think when it works out great, it's extraordinary.
Maybe having a midwife in the next room.
That's an option. But a lot of the times these women are choosing not to have that. They want to do it completely on their own. And there are some bad outcomes that happen as a result of this. And I've gotten in some of these forum brawls, and women are like, well, these babies would have died anyway. And I'm like, actually, no. Because when you have a trained medical provider, you're going to have better outcomes. That's simply like data, right? Like our fetal demise rate is so much lower now than it was 100 years ago because we have medical observation. We can see a baby who's in distress. Like of the births that I've had in the last week, had there not been some kind of medical oversight, and I'm not just talking myself, some of these were co-cared with an OB, these babies would not be alive today. And it's extraordinary to have this place where it's not anti-medical and we're not anti-midwife, but we're coherently working together to produce the best outcomes. And the countries that really support midwifery, that are part of their national insurance systems, have the best outcomes.
Countries like what?
Countries like most of the European countries.
Mm-hmm.
Canada is another one. New Zealand is another one, where midwives deal with low risk and OBs deal with high risk. And it's not either or, but it's some combination of the two. Midwifery is very normal in Europe and England and France. I had a gal, I think she was an English gal, who was here about a month ago, and I was working with her. And it was just so lovely to have this like place where we meet in the middle, right? Where we're not demonizing obstetric care or midwifery care, right? Because the reason why midwifery has fought tooth and nail to get some kind of presence here in the US, it's taking way too long. I mean, it's insane that midwives are still only doing like 1% home birth,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe something like maybe 4 or 5% in the hospital. Maybe. Like that's absurd when the outcomes speak for themselves. Like if we really cared about women, if we really cared about choice, we would have midwifery as part of our maternity care in the United States, covered by insurance.
And you charge less than the hospital, right?
Well, if you're paying cash,
Yeah.
absolutely. You're If you don't have insurance and you're going to have a baby in the hospital, you're going to spend between $20,000 and $50,000.
Okay. And what about you?
I charge 10.
Okay.
Um, LA midwives, there's somewhere between like probably 7 and 12,000, 13,000. And OBs that don't take insurance, anywhere from 15 to 25,000.
Let's talk about male trauma. Let's say, so my biggest concern was when I was present during the labor, I was present, but I didn't look that way there, because I thought like, if I'm gonna see that, this is not pretty for me. This is not pretty, and I believe I might have had some sexual trauma. Maybe I would have looked at my wife a bit differently after I see her in that vulnerable position from that side, from the vagina. Kid is going through the vagina, etc. Is it a possibility? Is it a common thing or a rare thing amongst male?
Less so. I mean, look, I would just say the demographic that is interested in home birth, like when couples are aligned, it's like front and center, baby. Let's see what's going on there. But I feel like that perspective is kind of older mentality,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like men, I mean, you're where you're at, let's say, on the spectrum of sensitivity,
Mm-hmm.
right? Um, I think there's a bit of objectifying that happens with women's bodies, being like sexual creatures and being beautiful and looking at the yoni as, a place of arousal and a relationship that you have with it that's one way, that's, we'll say, a particular flavor of experience. And then to see this biological experience, a baby emerging from this place that you derive great pleasure from,
Sure.
it's hard for your brain to rectify those two things. And I can say, like, I as a provider do not have judgment when that's so. Um, it is what we make of it. If it's important for you to have a relationship with your partner that does not include watching blood and a head come out of her body, that's completely your prerogative. There's no
But I'm
expectation.
not the only one. That's what I'm asking. Have you
You're
ever
not. You're not. Absolutely true. But like, I don't make it wrong for when it's there. It's just, look, people know what works for the couple. But I will say this, you see it a lot more in the hospital, right? In the hospital setting, partners are there's overall much less involvement and requirement for partners in a hospital birth, right? But in a home birth, it requires much more partner involvement. It's like, how much do you want to pull back the curtain on life experiences? Like, how much do you really want to experience? Some of us are like, I'll go ankle deep in that. Like, I'm curious, but I'm willing to go ankle deep. Some people are like,
all in?
I'm diving in there, And so that would be where you feel anxious or hesitant, and it's your own relationship, and it's up to you, and it's up to your partner. In a hospital setting, not much expected of you. You don't have to catch the baby.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to cut the cord unless you want to. Like, everything is taken care of for you. But in the home birth setting, people tend to be very involved. Like, women will hold their parts of their labia or the clitoris as the baby's emerging. It creates a continuum of a felt sense experience. I see far less tearing when there's a hand there, right? I see women push with an awareness and a felt sense of control as they're moving their baby out their tissues. So that's part of a woman being in control. Whereas OBs, oh man, I had a transport once, and I went to my client and I couldn't stand this doctor. He was absolutely misogynist. Old school doctor. Ugh. And I was like, this is a woman who'd experienced tremendous sexual trauma.
Rape?
We'll just leave it at tremendous sexual trauma.
Okay.
Okay. And I'm like, feel your baby's head as it's emerging. And he swatted her hands away. And he's like, that's not sanitary. And I was just like, what the fuck? Like, what are we, like, our birth is not sanitary. You know what I mean? Like, we're not trying to sanitize this thing. He took her power away. Do you understand? It's these subtle expressions of, I'm in charge here. I'm the authority. It was, that was a take moment. He just basically asserted that he was in control of the room.
Mm-hmm.
There was another incident that he and I had where I was encouraging her, and he's like, shut up. I'm the only one speaking in this room.
Oh, really?
And I was just like, oh my God. Like, for me.
And you can't do nothing.
It was her birth. I wasn't going to bring more trauma into that room that was already living itself out.
By having an argument or a conflict?
No. Like, look, I can put my ego aside. I can complain to my girlfriends after. I can call other midwives and process. I can even talk to my client after. But in the moment, why do I need to settle to his level? She's giving birth. We're at the moment that, like, the zenith of the zenith of this experience. I'm not going to interject an argument just to prove a point in this moment.
Do you think he would have said the same thing if you were male?
That's a good question.
Do you think that's a gender thing?
I don't, maybe.
So there are midwives, males. They're still called midwives, not mid-husbands. But there are males.
Few. I mean, there are not many. There was a Maori midwife from New Zealand, Papa Joe. He was someone that I worked with from time to time. I think culturally, I don't know. I don't see much of it. It's like male OB nurses. They exist, but there's so few of them. It's just traditionally not a male role. But there are a lot of male obstetricians, which is interesting.
Mm-hmm.
It is interesting.
Why?
Why is it interesting?
No, why it's the vice versa. Midwives are more female and the OBs are more male.
I think the intimacy of birth in midwifery is like there's an empathy that happens. Women who are seeking that kind of tender, nurturing care that many midwives provide, there's an understanding, a mutual understanding. Whereas I think we have a lot of unresolved trauma in our lives. And I think a lot of times women choose male OBs because they want to be taken care of. They want they have some daddy issues. They want to be nurtured. They want to be saved by this like masculine kind of knight in shining armor, right? Also a lot of male OBs, like they're like good looking. Like it's just like a weird dynamic.
But would you say that if male are more stress resilient? We can handle more stress?
No.
You think so?
No, I definitely don't think males can handle more stress.
Not physical, mental stress.
No.
You can handle more pain in a long period of time. You can give birth, right? We can't do that.
I will throw down with you, Apollo. I'm telling you right now, I do not believe men can handle more stress. I don't think that's a true statement. At least not the men I've met. I'm not saying physical endurance for sure. Look, I'm not comparing our body's abilities. I think men are.
You think we're more physically more durable?
For sure.
We would have so if male had to labor, there would be no humanity. I would never go through that. Like never.
I think that men have something like 180,000 more sense receptors on the outside of their body. They are physically more sensitive. That is
correct.
An accurate statement.
We can get punched in the face. Like, let's say 10 rounds for 3 minutes.
Oh, I know.
But there's no way we're going to lay in the bed for 20 hours and having this pain nonstop. Or like, pinnacle, bam, it drops for like, 60 seconds. Then once again, apex.
Yeah.
We're done. I'm not doing it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So why do you think there are more, let's say, male pilots or truck drivers?
I think they've been traditionally male-dominated fields from the beginning, right? Like, I think that's an old reference point, right? Like before women really entered the workforce, it was always men doing these jobs. And I think it's really more about appeal. Like maybe, I don't know. I've not had a
Let,
desire to become a pilot.
let's say you're buying tickets, flight tickets, and you have this option free of charge,
Oh,
and you can choose whether a male or female pilot. What would you rather choose? You don't know their experience. You know nothing about just male
such
or
an interesting
female.
question. Um,
Well, for instance, if that was a question about
I think just because it has been literally all that I've seen, it has become the familiar representation of a pilot, right? It's like that. Like it's almost when you look at a pilot's work attire, it looks almost like a military.
Mhm.
It's very similar. You could probably mistake the two, right? And so I think that's kind of what's just been presented to us, and we've like drank the Kool-Aid on that one. Like, oh yeah, it's acceptable. It's what we've always seen.
Okay, let's say you're choosing a nurse, male or female.
Female,
Okay, let's say you're choosing a nanny, daycare, male or female.
female.
Why?
I,
That's the same thing for me. The same thing for me.
Nurturing.
Correct. Because you do something better than us, and we do something better than you.
Which was fly planes? Are you saying that you fly planes?
Yes, I believe that we can,
Based
in the
on
stressful
what
situations,
data?
we can stay more calm, and we can make decisions not based on emotions, but based on the situation.
I am a midwife, and there are stressful situations,
Correct.
and I would rather have me at a birth than a man. Because I've seen men at birth in stressful situations, and it's not pretty.
Yeah, but they're what? They're partners or husbands.
No,
They're not
I'm talking about
professionals.
yeah, absolutely the professionals.
The OBs.
Yes.
And they stress the shit out during the labor.
Yes.
They're not supposed to do that.
Okay, do you want to tell them that?
No.
I'm just letting you know. I think like look, this is turning into like a, male versus female conversation, which I'm
Not really.
I mean, and we're just hypothesizing here, but I've seen lots of OBs drop the plot at a birth that's got some complicated edges to it. And, most of the time that is with male doctors.
Okay, let's say you have your daughter, God forbid, has to have this, let's say, brain surgery.
Uh-huh.
And they're saying the brain surgery is going to last, let's say, 12, 16 hours, which is pretty normal, right? Complicated surgeries last more than 10 hours. Would you choose a male or a female as a surgeon?
I would choose the best.
You don't know their credential. You just know male or female.
I can't answer that question right now.
Why?
Because it doesn't, like, it's not a real, like, you're asking me to say, what would you do if, and I really cannot answer that. It's not that I would choose a male doctor over a female doctor. Absolutely not.
So you think a female can do the same stuff for 12, 14 hours as a male? Let's say concentrated, physically fit, 14 hours under this immense stress doing the brain surgery.
Tell me why she couldn't.
Because it's physically draining, 12, 14 hours.
What do you think?
Standing only.
What do you think being a mother is?
You can sit at least, right? And it's your life. Yes.
This conversation is stressing me out.
Well, what I'm saying is that we are very much different.
Yes.
Our physical abilities differ. Our mental abilities differ. Our stress, the levels of stress that we can endure differ.
Our mental abilities are different?
Are women smarter or male smarter? No.
I don't think so.
I wouldn't say so.
Okay.
Because there are a lot of scientists right now, women. But let's say IT sector, right? More male. Why?
Because it's boring.
Okay. Maybe. Bankers, okay, maybe that's old money traditions for hundreds of years. But the new areas, just like I've mentioned, IT, there are some IT specialist women, but most of them are male. But for instance, designers are more female. If I ever, let's say I build a house and I have to hire a designer for my house, for my home, definitely female. Why? Because you know how to turn home into something comfortable, something convenient, something home-like, not just a studio.
So That's an interior designer. What about an
Interior.
architect? Would you prefer a female or a male architect?
So architect, it means you have credentials. You know all the safety stuff. Doesn't matter.
Okay.
Don't
that's
matter at all.
great. What about a plumber?
Because of the physical stuff, you have to use this wrench and unscrew something just because of physical power that you might need more. Male, I would say.
Electrician?
No preference.
Teacher?
Female, only female. Why? Because you have empathy. We don't have that much empathy as you do. That's why you're mothers.
My favorite teachers have always been men.
Really?
Yeah.
What subjects?
When I was in college, I took World Arts and Cultures with a man named Peter Sellers. Changed my life. Changed my life. I graduated from college in 97, and a year and a half ago, I sent him a letter saying, I just need you to know, I think about the things I learned in your class all the time. I've made decisions in my life that were completely opposite the direction my life was going, simply because of the way you spoke to us, the way you spoke to my soul.
Yeah, but maybe that was his personality, not the gender. If a woman would have had the same personality.
What I'm trying to say is I don't really think the gender really influences it as much as you're putting this energy on gender. I think that, like, look, when people are touched by God, when they are open as channels of teaching and they're here bringing their message, doesn't matter. Same thing with doctors, doesn't matter. Somebody is here driven from purpose, doesn't matter their gender. They're coming with a gift, they're bringing their gift. This podcast, this is not a male dominant thing. It's like you're passionate and your purpose has brought you to this point where you must do this. You just must do it. You're not good at it because you're a man. You're good at it because your heart's in it.
Yeah, but there are certain professions where, let's say, oil rigs, 95, I want to say, % only male. Why? Because it's physically hard to do that.
Yeah, but some women love that. Some women want to get up in that rig and crank things and drill.
So on your Instagram, you have this very interesting picture profile.
I do.
That's a vagina?
No, it's a stone.
In form of a vagina.
In the form of a vagina.
Do you think there is power in vagina?
Heck yeah.
What kind of power?
It's a portal.
To what?
Worlds.
Explain it to me.
I just want to also say there's absolute power in the lingam too. I'm not saying that there's the yoni and the lingam, one's more powerful than the other. They are really like Lego pieces, right? They work very well together. Just the extraordinary nerve endings, obviously what a yoni can do, like the fact that it stretches to birth. I had a client the other day, she brought a 10-pound baby, no tear. I was like, you are amazing.
10 pounds.
10 pounds.
Okay, let's say a woman is infertile. Does that woman with the vagina has the power?
She definitely has power.
Then that's
The
some kind of a
isn't
different
the source
power.
of the fertility,
Uh-huh.
right? It's simply a doorway. It's, the passageway for pleasure and sensitivity and, a microbiome.
Let's say a woman is not attractive and she doesn't have a lot of, let's say, she is not attracted to male. She doesn't have those friends or partners.
Okay.
Does the power go away?
It's not.
So it can bear a life and it can't attract a partner, a husband. What kind of...
Wait, are we saying that the yoni is attracting a partner?
Yoni, you mean vagina? You call it yoni?
I do.
Does the vagina attract the partner? No, but it's
So you're telling
part
me,
of it.
Is it
A lot of people go to war. They kill each other just because of women they want to have sex with, including vagina, getting the access to vagina. That's why I'm asking whether vaginas, not women, but vaginas, do they have power and what kind of power do they have? If they're not infertile, The vagina have a power to bear a child, right? But if the woman is infertile, does the power leave? No. But if the vagina is not, if a woman is not attractive and no man wants to interact with that vagina, does the power leave? No. So what kind of power does vagina have?
I think that's really between a woman and her vagina or her yoni.
Okay. Why do you call it that way?
It's sacred, right? So vagina seems very like clinical, and it's like, but yoni is not. Yoni and lingam come from more the Vedic or Indian, and it's really the recognition that these are not just penises, cocks, right? But they're like sacred objects.
Well, penis is a medical term. Cock is not.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like, we tend to minimize, right? And just make it this thing, an object, when, there's so much more. It's really the seed of so much intention and power and sensation and nerve endings and blood flow and the misuse of them as being just objectified objects has created enormous pain and suffering. And if we up-level the respect given to them, from a young age, then we can shift the perception of them in life, right?
You use this very interesting word, intimate, and you said sacred. How do you feel about, let's say, music videos, on stage performances where women almost dressed up, almost naked? And it happened, I want to say, in the last 20 to 25 years only. In the 1950s, 60s, 70s, even 80s, women were not that sexualized as they are right now.
Devil's work.
Whose work is this then?
No, I mean, look, women have been objectified forever, right?
You mean as sex objects?
Yeah, and not just like as just objects, right?
Well,
Like,
male are object as well. For money, for safety.
when you look at the transference of power, right? Like men as the dominant race, the dominant gender, like, Vikings coming, like just taking women, and like, it's just like, this has been going on for a long time, and it's still happening, right? There's still places in Africa where it's just like women are just have very little respect, and it's not great. But in terms of, power, I don't know when how this epigenetic trauma of, the taking power away through the sexual act, when it originated. But in terms of contemporary time, power over the female body, it's desecration of something that is so potent and beautiful. Like, I think women's bodies are unreal, unbelievable. Having a woman's body, getting to experience what it's like, and what it is when it hasn't been respected, having an abusive father like that, really, like, not feeling that I was treated sacred. I had to again find these things for myself. And I talk to all my clients. I'm telling you, out of 3,000 clients, and this is a rough number, but close to 1,000 have had some sexual abuse in their life. That's a lot of women. That's 1 in 3 have been inappropriately touched against their will, raped. Like, these are like
Horrible. I agree with you, correct.
And this is like in the last 30 years. It's
Yeah,
historically,
but
it's
when
so much
artists
more.
but when artists dress down on stage, singing almost naked, it amplifies our vision women as sex objects. Look, she's naked.
Yeah, but maybe that is her way of taking the power back, right? Instead of like barbarians coming and just taking women and
No
doing
one does that, let's say, in the Western world for 100 years minimum.
no, but it's still in our genes. Many of us are the offspring of that, right? Like it's in your blood. Either you were a descendant of a woman who was, or you were a descendant of a man who did, right? Like there's zero chance, almost zero chance, unless you're part of a tribal culture that's been untouched for civilization. We are the product of that kind of power over. And so here we are, in this is wherever we are in contemporary life. And maybe taking the power back is saying, you can look, but I'm not yours. I belong to myself. This is my expression.
You can't taunt like that. You can't do that because, let's say,
Are you going to tell them that?
if only 1% of male are going to say no, I'm not just gonna look. It's like the same thing as a male go to a strip club and they're not allowed to touch and only to watch. A lot of them are getting kicked out because they can't help themselves. If they're lonely, let's say they're in their 40s, they're lonely and they only can watch, or they have this lap dance and their hands has to be like this, high percentage they get kicked out because they can't help themselves. So showing your naked butt or almost naked breast during your performance on stage or in movie music videos, it's not an option. This is not a power grab.
I think it is. But here's another thing. Look at these like artistic Roman paintings with women with one breast hanging out, or they're naked. The difference is one is a still, the other is one is moving and, is going to be on film. There really isn't a huge difference except the painting, no one's twerking, right? Like it's still a naked body. You sitting here saying you can't do that is like saying, okay, are you going to tell them that? Do you want to like let them know that that's not okay? Because it is. You have to make it all okay. It's not going to change.
It is going to change because this wasn't a thing 30 years ago, even
No, it was
20
the thing
years ago.
1,000 years ago in these paintings, though. Like, it's like I think
But
that
this is art. I have no problem with seeing, let's say, a naked woman in a picture, a photograph, right? Because this is art, artsy, beautiful picture, but not working on stage or during the music video.
art is in the eye of the beholder.
So do you think, let's say, 2024 last year, DNC, Megan Thee Stallion was on the stage during the DNC twerking? That's art?
Look,
And they're saying, let's empower the women to do what? To twerk your ass? This is not empowerment.
well, first
at
of all,
all.
twerking's not new. It's been around for, I don't know, 5 years, 10 years, 15. I don't even know. I don't know who choreographed. Look, I'm just like, whatever. Like, if you want to spend your precious energy saying that's not okay, you're fighting an uphill battle. You will not win that.
You have a 16-year-old daughter.
Yeah.
So are you saying to her that this is okay or not?
Do you think I get to say what's okay anymore?
Of course.
I
You're
do.
a parent.
Look, I'm telling you, I do the best I can as a mom, but
This is
there's a book out there called Let Them. And it's about saying, okay, you get to make your own choices in life and you get to be responsible for the consequences. Here's an example. Yesterday, my daughter put her water bottle in her backpack without screwing the lid on, poured all over the computer. I'm like, you're going to have to figure this out. I'm going to empower you now to figure out how you're going to handle this.
But this is not the same thing as her creating an account on OnlyFans.
No,
right?
But she really wants to. And it's like, look, when we're
Really?
18, and when you're 18, what can I do? I can't control what she chooses to do. She's an adult. She can get arrested. She can drive. Like, she is.
You're a hippie.
You just figured this out?
You don't smoke.
Cigarettes?
No. Weed?
I look at weed as a medicine, and sometimes,
To cure what?
oh my gosh, my back went out
Okay.
2 weeks ago. And I did chiropractor 3 times. I did icing. I was like in a tremendous amount of pain. And I was like, I think I need like some help with this, and I had some cannabis, and I like had so much information about alignment come through. I moved my body for hours, and I was able to move inside of it and like move with the tensions in my body. It was an amazing
But it
experience.
solved the problem?
Yeah. I mean, it
Your back
definitely
doesn't
helped.
hurt after one joint or what?
It wasn't about the joint, it was about using the medicine, like the actual plant medicine, to get like further inside my own body and have access to um, alignment, actual alignment, like spiritual. It was like a spiritually opening experience. I wasn't high, I was embodied. And that's where I think cannabis can be an incredibly useful medicine.
But it's over abused.
Sure.
Big time every day. What? Okay, so
But that is somebody else's life journey. I cannot be responsible for other people's choices. I can only be responsible for my own. And the same goes true for my 16-year-old daughter.
if she comes home high, you're not gonna have a conversation with her that this is
How do you know
inappropriate?
she hasn't already?
Well, you can see when they're stoned, the
Yeah.
eyes,
Yeah.
they're hungry.
Yeah.
And so you're not gonna have a conversation with her that this is not it. This is not the thing that we do in our household.
I'm not. No. I've already had conversations with her about it. I've explained to her why it's not beneficial for her developing brain, that her frontal lobe is still developing, that she's already distracted. I already had these dialogues with her. At this point now, she's making choices that she has to be responsible for. Like, what do you, am I not going to ground her? Like, we're past that point, right? I'm not like, that is an old form of parenting, by the way, that authoritative parenting. That doesn't mean if she's disrespectful, I'm not going to take something away. But I'm also like, look, I'd rather her do that than get drunk. I'd rather her, use cannabis than drink alcohol. And right now she's not drinking, and that, I mean, she's definitely doing better than I was at that age.
That's why every child has to have both parents. Dad has to step up and say, daughter, listen, I love you. You can't do that. You're not gonna be attractive. You can't do OnlyFans. Why? Because even in a year, everybody is going to find out that you did this OnlyFans.
Yeah.
You're not going to be attracted to another male. And body counts do matter.
I agree.
So this is why fathers are so crucial.
Yeah. But I think there's some old programming in your brain about like the right way and the good way. And, I don't know about you, but I definitely had to find my own way in life. I didn't get to where I am today making only like good decisions, right?
Neither is it.
Pollyanna good decisions. Like, no, I made lots of dangerous choices that helped mature me. At one point I was a fugitive and I went down a path and I ran away from the government and left the country. And I also turned myself back in and walked down another path. Like all of these things shaped who I was and who I am today. And I wouldn't regret any of these choices.
But have you ever heard the stories like, I'm happy I did not stop drinking. That saved my life.
No.
This is the vice versa. I stopped drinking in 2013. That was the last drop that I drank.
And
It's one of the best choices of my life.
Why did you do that?
Why did I drink or stop drinking?
Why did you drink?
Because that was cool amongst my friends.
And was it a problem?
Drinking? I was an idiot. I didn't do any crime, but I was just like an idiot. Calling all my friends, what are you doing? Let's go, let's party together.
So why did you stop drinking?
I started working out. I wanted to be stronger. I wanted to achieve more financial stuff. And I knew that this is just ruining my life for 2 or 3 days every week. From Friday to, let's say, Sunday.
Because it was ruining your life.
Correct.
Right.
Alcohol ruins everybody's life. There's not a single person that would say, alcohol saved my life. Nope. Maybe he fell from the window, that because he was drunk, he was relaxed, and that's the reason that he didn't die.
But the point is, it doesn't ruin everybody's life. I think that it becomes like all of the things in the world that are temptations, whether it's food or sex or pleasure or drugs or, these things that can be very recreational and take us off that disconnect us from source and our own true north. But sometimes the axis, you kind of get thrown off to get righted in your path. You know, I have a number of friends when I ran away to Canada, number of friends that were addicts of various sorts. And the ones that hit rock bottom are doing the best. And the ones that didn't, the ones who kind of like maintained, those are the ones who still struggle.
And some of them just end up dying.
That's true.
Oh, we did.
Yeah.
Horrendous. Can you imagine this for your kid?
I would.
No worries.
Really
You can smoke. No worries. You can do the mushrooms. You can do this, and that. No worries. You can drink. We all drink. No. We don't do that. We just don't do that.
I think it's really important to educate your child, but like, listen, there's like a candy store. My daughter went to a football game last year. She's like, Mom, I was offered 4 different things at the football game. And I was like, damn, does that mean she can't go to football games? No. It means that I'm really proud of you that you didn't participate in any of those things. Does that mean she won't participate in them in another time? No.
But do you know that she can end up doing this? Not even knowing, drinking some iced tea.
I know. Listen to me. Look.
Then raped, God forbid, and then having trauma.
She has been educated. And now she will make choices based on that education and life experience. Look, you cannot create a bubble around your kids. I know you.
I agree with you.
They're going to have many bad decisions. They're going to sleep with people that they will regret later. Like all of these things. We've all done that.
Just use a condom, please.
Oh my God.
Boys and girls, please use condoms.
Yeah. That would be great. And she'll probably not do that every time. Do you know what I mean? Did you use a condom every single time?
Yes.
Liar.
No. Actually, I did. Because I knew that the result is going to ruin my life.
Yeah.
I would have never signed for an abortion.
Okay. Well, that's a personal perspective.
Last question.
Last question. Okay.
Who's the Lord?
Who is the Lord?
Up to you, yeah. You see, in your Instagram accounts, it says you're a priestess.
Yeah.
What does it mean? Who's the God to you?
The divine masculine. But like who's the supreme being?
No, I mean, do you believe in Jesus? Do you believe in Allah? Do you believe in Buddha?
I am very poly when it comes to like the religious and spiritual philosophies. But at the end of the day, it always comes down to one thing, which is, like being kind, being loving, helping out when you can help out. Hopefully not to the point of self-sacrifice. As a priestess, so I have been initiated as a priestess. I've gone through training. I think that my work-life path has a lot of priestess elements to it. I think for me, what it means to be a priestess is to hold space, to participate in the sacred life as a sacred experience. There's something too about specific ceremony work, doing rites of passage ceremonies, marriages. I've married many people before. And it's a lot about creating something that can be very vanilla and mundane, or taking what is intended to be a life union and bringing elements of the sanctity of the contract into it and the commitment. So for me, being a midwife is really also about being a priestess, about holding space for the sacred. It's how I live my life, but I also do very specific priestess work from time to time.
From what I've heard, it's basically Christianity. Jesus said, love your neighbors and God as yourself. Mm-hmm. Marriage is sacred, once in a lifetime. Help others. He empowered women. He met this promiscuous woman and helped her. So why not Christianity? Why not profess Jesus as your savior?
Oh, because I don't know that that's really what he wanted. I really don't.
He said that the only way to Father is through me.
I think he meant my, and look, everybody is taking the teachings and making their own meaning out of it. So I'll tell you the meaning I make out of it, which is like live like I lived, be a good person. Um, don't covet your neighbor's wife. And, like, I feel like these are really good. Don't kill, no murdering. Um, those are great for people who need like a set of rules. I think we could do better than just that. I feel that part of the reason why the environment is in the state it's in is because good Christians also valued money over God and over our relationship with nature.
Fake Christians.
Look, they go to
The
church.
love for fake Christians, the love for money is the root of all evil.
I mean, I look at a lot of our politicians. They go to church,
Fake
and yet,
Christians.
but like to me, I don't need a label or a church or any of
Correct. I
that.
agree with you.
I have a relationship with the divine that is alive and well, and before I go into a birth, I pray now. Like, I've learned that is, I don't want to be alone in that experience. I want all the support I can get, and for me that means all the illuminated ancestors. I want guides. I want the archangels. I want to recruit all the benevolent resources to be in that birth with us, helping the soul transition from one plane of existence to the other. I feel like, why not? Like, that does not.
Jesus can do that all by himself.
Jesus can come
He
too.
provided.
I like Mary. I'm also a big Mother Mary fan.
She was incredible, but
I have,
not goddess.
yeah, but I just don't think it's only him. I think there have been so many ascended master teachers who've come to help humanity evolve. I believe Jesus is one of them. I
Yeah, but
believe
they're all
Buddha
dead.
is.
They're all dead, and he's alive.
Okay.
He resurrected.
So you're Christian, is that right?
Yes, I'm a Jesus follower.
I love that. And like I said, I love Jesus. I have nothing like Jesus is my homie. I'm like, we're tight. But so is Mary. And I'm really open to any benevolent energy and archetype to help get the job done, truthfully, right? So
The last question on my podcast is always the same. Aleksandra, let's have with you two assumptions. Assumption number one is the president of the United States of America is the most powerful human being on planet Earth. Assumption number two is you become one. You become the first female president, and once you do so, you have this incredible disposal of all the secret agencies, CIA, FBI, Secret Service, all that. And they approach you and they say, congratulations, Mrs. President, you are the one. You have all the access in the world. And we, as agencies, we know all the answers in the world. Meaning, you ask us a question, we give you an honest answer. What would be your first question?
well, the first thing that comes to mind would be about, well, okay, that was the first thing that came to mind. It was about autism and vaccines. I had a whole conversation with my chat GBT on the way over here, and I was like, but I'm pretty sure they're like, where's all the virus database coming from? And my chat GPT was like, no, vaccines don't cause autism. It's been proven. I'm like, okay, I don't want to get in an argument with you right now, but I'd love to see the data that's hidden. I'd love to see the UFO information. I'd really like to know what is really known. And I have gone deep dive into that world, and I've seen some amazing things, but I think it'd be great to just read it all for myself. And I think about the mystical world. Like, what don't we know in the mystical, like, things? And by that I mean like places, objects, things like that. That would be very interesting to me. I could really enjoy going on a deep dive around that. And then I think also there's going deeper into consciousness, like really what information is being hidden about consciousness and afterlife, and I think that there's more known that just isn't permeated into public knowledge because it probably does rub up against certain religious
You know what's interesting?
structure.
So even today, a few hours ago, RFK Jr. had a statement that in next month, in September, he is going to give us the results of his research in regards to autism and vaccines. Yeah, just today, a few hours ago. So let's say you're a president and they tell you, yes, the shots cost this, and that. And you have a choice to tell it to the public or to keep the secret. But if you tell it to the public, you're going to lose all the big donors, and Big Pharma is probably going to kill you. Your move.
Oh, I'm all about integrity. So I would
Expose?
yeah. Like, of course.
Can people handle the truth? Even it's really hard to comprehend?
Some can. Some can't.
Let's say you find out the truth about 9/11, right?
Mhm.
And it's horrendous. Would you expose it?
Sure.
You're not afraid of possible chaos?
What are we living in right now? You don't think that we're in chaos right now?
No. It's not anarchy.
Hmm. I would expose it. I'm all about the truth. At least what, like, I think we all have our own versions of the truth. But until we can offer the people around us the dignity and the respect to know what's so versus, all the gaslighting that we get constantly. It just feels like, the respect, the human respect, the decency is really missing.
God bless you. Thank you for coming. And where can people learn from you? Instagram?
Instagram, The Vital Woman, my fertility program, fertilefoundations.com.
And the
Check
links
it out.
in your Instagram bio, right?
Yes,
Mhm.
through Linktree. Yes. What else? Also, the postpartum doula training is called The Nourished Mother. And you can find me soon
Okay.
under theurbanpriestess.com.
Thank you for coming. God bless.
Thanks for having me. This was interesting.
I had an interesting conversation as well.
All right.